I'll just start sharing my screen, and then hopefully, if everything works, I can pick up and also give a short introduction myself. Let's see. Okay. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, then good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Bertrand, for giving me the opportunity to present our results here in this really large round. My name is Daniel Becker. I'm a senior data scientist at the Fraunhofer IAIS, and particularly in the recently established Department for AI Assurance and Assessments. And I would like to present to you some of our work that we did in the context of how can we properly do AI assessments and also work in the direction of automatizing it as much as possible. And yeah, for that, I would like to start by giving you a little bit of a motivation of why we think that automation is really important in order to have the possibility to have a very efficient quality management. So that we think is a very important ingredient. It's not the only one, and I will also talk about that, but definitely one that is very important and that we think is very interesting as well, how to solve these things. And then, yeah, in the second part, we would like to present some ideas of what we think could make this kind of automation possible. And this will be basically an abstract architecture that we think is very well suited to accommodate many of the technical challenges that we have when it comes to AI assessments. But we will not stop there. We also have some work doing to really try to implement these concepts that we developed here. And I would like to show you also a little demonstration at the end of the talk, so you can see that what is already there, which basically is a part of a kind of AI assessment platform. So yeah, just to start off with the motivation, I think that is not something that we have to really argue a lot about in this audience here, that we think that quality and risk management for our application in general is very important, because we do not want to have these kind of things that are shown here on the right happen a lot, where there's some AI system deployed that is involved in very important decisions. In this case, it was looking for potential benefit frauds and would also accuse many people unjustifiably of benefit fraud. And then the effect was that there was even people taking their own lives, and a whole government being felled by this kind of system. And this is something to just illustrate how dangerous these things can be if their quality and the risk are not properly managed. And of course, if you want to do this, there are several challenges, and there, of course, are, for example, conceptual challenges. That means, okay, what does it even mean that a application is trustworthy? So what does it all entail? I mean, we had now this talk of Chris, where he would talk about a lot of reliability, robustness, and also safety, but there can even be more aspects here. For example, bias, data protection, anything like that. So transparency, can we understand what the system is doing, why it is doing something? So that is one aspect that we work on in our department, but it's not something that is in the focus today. Today, I would like to focus more on the technical challenges, and there, of course, are these things, the questions regarding how do we make the system actually safe? Also things that Chris was showing us examples, but also how can we actually test these systems, also maybe from a third-party perspective, but also during development ourselves, how we can, their methods in order to assess these things, the quality aspects there, manage them properly, assess all the risks. But also, of course, since there's now regulation coming out, and we know that there are many more AI systems that will appear in our everyday work, maybe even these robots that Chris was talking about. So we know that it's a very large number of systems that will have to be assessed in the near future. How can we make this scalable? How can we make sure that all of these systems that are also very dynamically developing over time can be assessed? This is a very large challenge, of course, and it's a technical challenge, basically. And there's, of course, the question of auditability and reproducibility. So that's also important, of course. If you test something and if you test results, we should be able to decide is it what was actually tested, was the test conducted properly, and also can we reproduce it to see that this is actually something that like a stable system properties, so that we can really see that this is a valid test. And in many cases, it will also not be that there is a single party involved in these tests, because sometimes they have a model provider, sometimes they have a data provider who provides the test data. Then we have maybe a third party that does the actual assessments, because we want to have some kind of independence, or maybe it even is required by regulation. So it should be possible to do these assessments in a collaborative fashion. And what's also important is that we can cover the whole life cycle of such an application, because we could have any kind of things even after the product goes to the market, where the environment changes, we have constant drift or data drift or anything like that. And of course, we should be able to do these assessments in a overarching fashion. So but in the context of scalability, of course, then automation comes in again, because we think that basically it's that all these assessments will not be, at least for the foreseeable future, be completely automated, so that there's no human being involved at any point. But if there is any kind of automation potential, we should try to use it as much as possible. That's the idea. And what is the concept that we developed in this context? How we think that these problems could be solved? Well, it's actually, first of all, it's an abstract idea, is that we could think of something like an AI assessment platform. So what do we mean by that? It should be some technical solution where different roles, people that can appear in the context of AI assessments come together and interact collaboratively and perform some assessments of AI systems. And that's something that we need. And then also, of course, in each of these assessments, there are several components involved. So we need, of course, there will be, if I do assessment of an AI system, there will be AI models somewhere, that we will have test data sets. We will have tools that assess certain aspects, quality aspects of these AI systems. And we also have to figure out how to actually conduct these tests. So there will be test workflows, which data has to be loaded to which model, then how is everything fed into a tool. And then at the end, of course, the results itself, they should also be part of this platform, so that we can then inspect them and look at any of these results. And what's also important in this context is that this platform should be able to use technology that is already well established and good for many of these basic tasks that should be part of it. Basically, for example, we need some kind of version control. Both for our code and our data, we should be able to run these kind of tests on the infrastructure that people have. It should be runnable in the cloud. It should be runnable on-prem, whatever we have. So basically, this is the abstract idea. And now I would like to show you what the kind of how we try to make this a little bit more concrete and derive some architecture that fulfills many of these requirements, and hopefully then a good foundation to really move forward towards a high degree of automation for AI assessments. So first of all, what we would probably need, or definitely need, for this kind of assessment platform is, as I said, we need to be able to integrate all these components that are part of an AI assessment into this platform. And the components could be, as I said, they could be data sets, they could be models, they could be tools, they could also be configurations of test workflows, meaning that actually how do these components act together? And of course, in the end, also the artifacts, which would be the test results that allow me to really see what was tested, and to make these things auditable, as I said, which is an important point, because otherwise, how can we decide if a test and assessment has really produced valid results. So one basic ingredient for this platform would be some kind of software framework that allows us to manage these kind of artifacts or these components that we have and basically integrate them all into this platform. And but as another important ingredient, what we would also need is to also have not only these models or these components themselves, as you can see on the left-hand side here, they should of course be integrable. And also, if you look at these of the requirement that different roles, different parties should be able to interact here, they should also be able to share these components with each other, but they should also be uniquely identifiable, that we actually know exactly which kind of component we have. Maybe if they changed over time, that we also know basically the version history of all these components, and that people can also put, provide some user annotation if they think there's something important that we need to know in order to use this model. But then they should be composable. All these components, they would, in order to actually conduct some tests or assessments, they need to be connected to each other. There should be a way to do this systematically and easily, so that we can compose many of these different assessment test workflows that we probably need in the assessments of real life complex AI systems. And for this themselves, also these workflows themselves, we should have some way of version controls, identifying them. They should also be again objects that can be managed in the same way as maybe the tools or the data sets can be managed. And lastly, of course, it should be possible to execute these workflows then in a reproducible and verifiable manner, and also build all the artifacts that we need, and also then of course log them, so that we can afterwards inspect them. So now I talked a little bit more, quite abstract about what is these workflows, but how could some workflow look like? A basic workflow, it's actually kind of general workflow that you can that can appear a lot in real life and real world assessment. And basically, it's something that, okay, so suppose you want to calculate something, for example, the mean average position for an object detection model. What I would need to do is basically I would have to have a test data set. I would have to load it somewhere in the memory. I would have to present the images, for example, if it were object detection for image data, to the model, look at the inference, basically what kind of object it found, and then compare that to the ground truth and the tool that would then just calculate an average position and then write this result back. And any kind of basic metric like test could be basically mapped to this kind of workflow that we see here. So there's basically a graph that lets these components interact with each other. So there we have certain individual components, which are the data sets, the test results, and the data loader, the AI model, and the assessment tool here. And these should be all manageable on this platform, and of course executable on this platform. And while they are executed, there should be mechanisms built into the platform that also make sure that the proper documentation of all the executions is generated, and the results can then be later on inspected. So, and now I would like to also show a little bit about the methodology, how we derived the concrete platform architecture, that I will show you in a minute, because we thought that, okay, of course we can think about this architecture on the way by looking at this kinds of properties or things that I already have shown to you. But we thought that, okay, maybe we should more look at this problem a little bit more systematically by looking both at what we think are relevant use cases that are important in the context of AI assessments, and also what we think are important collaboration scenarios that should also be, for which the architecture that we devise should be compatible with. And we wrote a publication about this. This is called Parma. That's the architecture I will show you. You see the link on the bottom of this slide. And if you were interested in the more of the details, you can just look this up. But basically, very shortly what the use cases that we thought are most important is basically AI software testing, meaning people are developing their AI systems, and of course during this development and also maybe then during testing prior to release, they want just to make sure that the model has or the system has the right quality and risk management profiles, is actually as good as they wanted to as we need it to be. But there could also be the case that some of these systems need to be assessed by independent parties, by notified bodies. There could be the need for post-market monitoring, which could be important, and also continuous testing. If I have a model that is continuously evolving, or we have at certain intervals there will be new versions released, we should be able to continuously test these things also to catch regressions or something. And of course, model benchmarking, which is something if you look at the LLM leaderboard of Hugging Face, you see that there are lots of different models that are tested against a set of benchmark data sets in order to you see how they are compared to each other in these benchmarks. That could also be something that is especially particular kind of AI assessment use case. When it comes to collaboration scenarios, we thought that there amenable two principal different things that we could think of. Basically, it could be that we have a centralized setting where there's one central platform provider, which is a host that provides basically the infrastructure and the computational resources. And if there's a sufficient level of trust between all the parties that are involved in this AI assessment, they could just upload their resources, basically the data, the models, the tools, and so on, to the platform, and then conduct the assessment on this platform in a centralized manner. But it could also be that sometimes the trust levels are, or the trust between the parties is not on that level, or there's some, for example, a tool provider wants just to provide the tool, but not really upload it to some other party. It could be important that it could also be that there's also a possibility to realize scenarios where these platforms talk to each other and they can exchange results and data. For example, one model is just running on one platform instance and provides an endpoint for another platform instance that can then ask the model to do some inference, send the inference results back, so that the overall components of a test workflows can reside on different instances of the platform. But can then still the whole overall workflow can run on this federated set of platforms. So that would be one scenario that we could also see, in all mixtures between those. And then also when it comes to resources that can be uploaded, the non-computational resources, meaning mainly data sets, parameters, models, and so on. There could be the principal different options of just uploading them to the platform themselves, but also think, for example, of an API model endpoint. You could just register a resource on the platform with some link to the API where it can be accessed, and then this platform can still talk to the model over this resource endpoint, so that you could just upload a location reference, basically. So, and taking these two things together, the use cases and the collaboration scenarios, we came to, we derived this list of requirements that we wanted to our architecture to be compatible with. Basically, it should of course be auditable, and if I have stronger requirements for assessment quality and validity, then auditability is very important. Then also it should be automatable as much as possible, to tackle the scalability problem, or to make these things even feasible for a large number of models, or if there's a lot of applications that change over time. It should be operable by multiple parties and also along the whole life cycle. And in order to also foster this, these kind of assessments should be modular and composable. And lastly, we think that this kind of architecture should be technology agnostic. And by that, we mean actually three things. It should not matter what kind of model you have, if it's a language model or it's an image processing object detection model, and if the data is images or text, or is even multimodal, everything like this should be run on this architecture. It should not be an architecture that is particularly designed to some kind of modality or architecture. And of course, also whether or not you implement your model in Python and PyTorch or in Java or C++ or anything, it should be able to run. You should be able to run these models there and also to test them. And lastly, also it should be, as I said in the beginning, if you have some kind of infrastructure with a particular infrastructure like technology stack, we don't want to really say that this runs only if you have only if you have Kubernetes on your cluster running. It should be cloud compatible and it should be basically compatible to any kind of technology stack that you have to run on your infrastructure. So now I would like to really show you the architecture of this platform, how we see it. How we presented it in this paper. Basically, on the left-hand side, we have the quality and risk management workflows that we think are important, where you can see the roles that interact with this platform. And this is maybe not even an exhausted list of roles, but any role that is can come up in the context of AI assessment should be able to interact with this platform. And of course, what we need is, first of all, be able to register modules, which is what I so far called components. And what a module is, I will explain on the next slide. Which could basically be individual components that can be made to interact on the platform by connecting them to workflows. And you should be able to upload them. You should be able to schedule executions, execute these models if they are executable. I come to this in a second. And then, of course, if these models have been executed and some results have been generated, you should be able to inspect them, also live monitor them, and collaboration. It should also be possible in a sense that maybe there are some module templates that you can share between different roles, and also, of course, make these third-party assessments or multi-party assessments possible. On the right-hand side, you see the components that we devise for this architecture. Basically, we think that there should be an UI that makes it easy to interact with this platform. If you don't yet have some application that can talk to it, but of course, under the hood, there should also be an API that you can use to make your application talk to this platform, because this is also, of course, going in the direction of making automation possible. Basically, what we need on the top here is a kind of module identity management, meaning that for each of these components that we see that could get on this platform, we need to be able to manage the identity so that each of these objects has a unique, universally identifier, but also if things are changing over time, you can have a version history. And this is all on this platform. And of course, it should abstract away the actual storage backend and data management systems that you might have, some database, some S3 object store that should be integral into the platform itself. And that references these things. And on the bottom, you see also everything in the context of how we can manage the execution of modules. First of all, we think there should be some kind of module deployment server that builds the modules and starts them. And the idea is that each of these modules, they basically also run a server that can then get commands and perform some tasks, so that some module orchestration service then can call functions of these modules and make sure that a certain test workflow that has been described and imported onto the platform runs actually in exactly the same way that we would like it to run, like in the right fashion, that each module has the correct data present whenever they need it. And of course, later on, if some artifacts, some test results have been generated, they should also end up into some kind of data store, of course, here. And also, if you have data on the platform already, you should be able to load it. So that's the general architecture. Let me now tell you what we think that the module consists. What the module consists of. Basically, the module, of course, first of all, it has to have a unique identifier, as I said, in order to be able to retrace everything later on. And this identifier is a tuple of three parts, basically a name and a domain. That is something that user can give it. And then if you have only the name and the domain, that just identifies an object up to all the versions that have been uploaded of this object during time. And each of these objects themselves, they offer a unique ID, which is basically a hash that allows to really identify a certain object exactly, and then see, maybe also look where in the version graph it is. So that is something that is very important here. We have some optionally also user annotations. The user can give any kind of additional information that they think is important for this module, or the developer. And then importantly, we have at least one or many execution graphs that can either consist of artifact nodes, which would be data sets, execution reports, model parameters, and so on, which could be inputs or outputs. And they could also consist of execution nodes, which could be then things that can be run on the platform. Execution nodes can be, for example, a model or an assessment tool, but also even, again, subgraphs of these kind of nodes, which could then be even whole assessment workflows. So these are all modules. So this whole notion of a model, this can be nested. Basically, the models can if necessary, be nested inside of each other. And just now on the left-hand side, you see that, but also is a consequence of basically of our requirement that things are technology agnostic, is that these input nodes, they should, the architecture should be able to deal with any kinds of input formats that these artifacts can come in, because if you have text, that could be already lots of different kinds of documents. If you have images, tabular data, and so on, there's a huge combination of possibilities that we can should be able to account for. This is why it's very important to have this kind of modularity present, and the same also goes for the testing tools itself, because you can calculate many different kinds of things. For example, you have confusion metrics, the accuracy, the hit rate, what have you, and also the outputs can be of very different type. And if it's a metric, then it's only a real number, but it could be also a distribution, a histogram, and so on. All of these things should be possible to be dealt with on this platform architecture. So that's basically the idea of this abstract structure. And now I would like to show you how we think how we could build a landscape for AI assessments. This is the overall vision that I want to show you for that takes into account all these scenarios and requirements and use cases that I told you about. Basically, the first important thing in our from our point of view is that if we have this kind of assessment platform, it should be able to integrate any kind of tool. And by this we mean basically proprietary tools, of course, if something that is not publicly available, but also any kind of open source tools, because we think that there will be lots of tools necessary to do all kinds of assessments, and there will be no single organization that will be able to provide them all. And they should be able to onboard these things on your platform. And by onboard, we mean basically there should be an easy way to convert them into a format that fits on the platform. I will talk to you about a little bit in the later what we mean by that, and then or register these tools then on the platform. And we also think that it's very important that that there should not be a single instance of a platform, and we always have to require that there is a certain central instance and everybody uploads everything to the platform to one instance. But there should be the possibility to connect these in a federated session. So, for example, if we have the different roles here of an assessor, a tool provider, and a customer, we can even accommodate a scenario where the proprietary tool provider does not want to actually upload or share their tool completely with either the customer or the assessor, and the customer needs this third-party assessment. Then it should be possible that these platform instances, they can talk to each other, and then a workflow which requires the model to run here and the tool to run here, and the overall workflow to run over the whole platform. That should be something that can be accommodated by our that's architecture by this kind of platform. And another important component that we think is also very crucial is that that it would be very nice if there would also be some kind of open source tool community where people could just, there's a public instance that people could just use and upload their models, so that the tools, so that these can be used by anyone who wants, either by actually connecting the platform instance directly to this public instance, or to just accessing a clone open source tool repository and clone the models into import them to your own platform. So, and then the last important point that we think is important here is that actually, when we think about assessment, then these assessment itself are use cases of the platform, and basically, if they are actually being conducted in a certain way, then it's not by really directly interacting with the platform by hand or manually, but in an automated fashion, meaning that there could be example use cases that implement certain kinds of assessment in a particular way that you can themselves again think of in a kind of an assessment application. For example, we could have an assessor that wants really to offer third-party assessments to customers, to companies that produce AI systems, and maybe they devise some kind of question-based assessment where people can sign up and then answer some questions about the AI system, also do some uploads maybe beforehand, or sharing some model endpoints, and then at certain stages in this assessment, then maybe some automated tests will be triggered that then run on this platform. So there will be some kind of application front end here and some of the application back end here, and this will then talk to the platform and then make this kind of assessment possible. Another possible, these are just example use cases, could be that maybe a company does some third-party assessments every now and then, maybe on a yearly basis, but in the between, they want to make sure that they can develop their tools in a very agile fashion, and they can just iterate about over these things. So they would like to, and also catch errors and risk, manage them really very early in the development stage. They may have more interest on something like a trustworthy AI copilot, where you have an AI assistant that talks to you, is integrated into the IDE of your developer, and then makes it possible to do these kind of assessments during the whole development stage. So, and that of course should be able to do. We should be able to do these things in an automated fashion, basically talking to the API of the platform. And that's basically the horizontal picture, the whole landscape, but also, of course, we need at the end, in order to make this possible, to have a way to connect from the top to the bottom, basically to the infrastructure, to really run some things. And this is what I would like to show you in a minute, like a demonstrator that we developed here. So the goal is for the assessment platform to be actually technology agnostic, that meaning that it can run on any or most infrastructure that you can find. And so this is why we didn't specify with the Parma layer any particular way of implementing it. The way we see it basically is that the Parma layer can provide some basic functionality that is compatible with all these scenarios, but it might in many cases not be feature rich enough to actually implement all the features that we need for a particular assessment application that I showed you examples of in the previous slide. So there will be probably an assessment platform application layer on top of Parma, but Parma itself is then this federated layer that provides the base functionality, but it's still very kind of abstract. So the idea was now to see what can we do and actually really connect it back down to the infrastructure. And we looked around what could be good foundation for this, and we found this Eclipse Graphene runtime that I will show you a little bit in the next minute. And this itself sits again on top of a Kubernetes layer, and as soon as you are at that stage with Kubernetes, you can basically you're basically connecting to your infrastructure, and then you can actually run things. And this is what I would like to show you. So why did we choose Eclipse Graphene? Basically, it's an actually nice already existing kind of AI platform that makes it quite easy to build AI applications based on modules that are basically Docker containers. So this is some kind of the architectural, the technical choice, one possible way to implement the architecture using containers for these components. And then you can actually interactively, you can upload these, you can onboard these models if you build containers from them and these modules, and then you can also use this design studio here to build test workflows interactively, and then also basically with a click can deploy them either on your own local Kubernetes cluster or in the cloud. To give a little bit of context, this deploy AI, this Graphene platform was developed within in the context of an a large EU project, which is actually the project before this deploy AI project that you show here. But now this deploy AI project is continuing the development of this platform, and it's actually a quite large project with quite high volume of, but also lots of partners working on it. And the idea is basically to make it easy to to disseminate and utilize AI technologies that have been developed in Europe, and also with a focus on Gen AI, of course, nowadays. And it has like a larger focus than just developing this Graphene platform, but the Graphene platform is an important part of this. And the demonstrator I would like to show you now, basically it's a blueprint for any kind of metric-based AI tests that we implemented, and that also picks up a lot of the concepts that are part of the Parma architecture. It consists of a test orchestrator, which makes sure that the test is run in this kind of test is run in a particular way. It has a system under test, which is an AI model that basically, in this case, it's an object detection model and some test data that is used for this model, and a test tool that will just calculate some performance matrices for this tool and write down the test results. And the test orchestrator also allows to specify the test configurations, inspect the workflow that has been run, and look at all the individual components, look at their identities and their hash values, and really see what kind of models exactly are running there. And these things are also nice. Another nice thing about this deploy AI platform is that it is completely publicly available. So if you would like to look at this demonstrator yourself, you can do so. You just have to go to this link here, and then you can. But you will have to create your own account there. But it's a self-service. You can just use your email address and generate this account. Then you can trace the steps that I'm about to show you now. Let me see if that works. So can you see my browser window here? Yes. Okay. Great. So this is how this deploy platform looks like. If you go there, I mean, I'm now already logged in. So then I have this bar at the left-hand side. You see, there's already the design studio here that you can use to build your applications here. This is one of these components of the Graphene platform, is this AI builder that allows you to build these workflows. And if you go to the catalog session, it takes a little bit to load. Then you can see the demonstrator that I'm about to show you. It's here, this AITF demo for the testing framework. If you click on it, you can even also get on our documents. You can see there's a PDF that explains how you use this workflow, this application, or this demonstrator. And on the right-hand side, you can see here is deploy for execution. And there are two options. Basically, you can just download some Kubernetes configuration for your local cluster if you have one, or you can use this publicly available AI runner. This is something, if you click on that, you will, and have not registered yet, you will have to create another account with this platform. But this is the same thing. It's also self-service. It's quite easy to do. And now what you see here is that basically the runner is deploying these containers on this platform instance, and hopefully everything runs. Let's see. Yes, now everything is green. It means all these containers have been created, and they form this kind of workflow. They are connected in a way that I mean, I could show you now on the design studio, but it's in the interest of time, we'll just show you how to use the orchestrator now to run these tests and look at the results. Basically, all these containers, you can look at the details of how they have been started up, and the logs if something went wrong, or if nothing went wrong. Either way, you can log at them. But what you can also do is these containers, these modules can provide their own web UI that you can just click on, and then it opens up in the browser. And if you look at what this orchestrator has implemented, you can see here that it is actually giving you a view of the whole workflow that has been configured here. Basically, what we see is we have a data set, which is a Kitty data set, which is data set of images of traffic scenes. And then here's a model that does object detection on these images, predicting certain classes of objects, basically cars, pedestrians, and cyclists. And we have a tool that computes performance metrics on that. And of course, it gets both the inference from the model, but also the labels from the data set in order to be able to calculate the metrics. You can see that here. You can also see that we have the Kitty data set here imported, and it also has some unique identifier, which is based part of this concept that we have, that I showed you for the Parma architecture. You can also see the same for the here you can inspect it a little bit more in detail, and also for the prediction and the metrics. There should be actually something, but since this model has not run yet, there's a placeholder here. Basically, it has not been filled yet, but they will run the model in a minute, and then you can see that this will be filled with actual values. The same for the execution nodes, which is basically the model node and the compute, the metric node. And now we can also go here and select from different configurations that we have here from this that we can run of this test. And basically, if I apply this, and then I can see that later on the, if I look at the details here, I can see that the data set that will be used has been changed. Basically, it's just a small subset of the data set that is only showing pedestrians, so that we can see what the model is doing there. It just the reason is just to demonstrate, of course, this possibility, but also to the runtime is much faster. So now I look at test executions. There's nothing there because I didn't run the tests so far, and then I can do this here in this IR runner UI graphic user interface. I can run this thing, and I see that actually the status is changed to running. If I look at the text executions here, I see actually, yeah, there is a new test being run. It also says when it was created. And since I selected the pedestrian data set, which is quite small, it finished now already. And then I can see what has been created, but if I would like to actually see the results, I would go to the metric tool, which itself has also a kind of sometimes some web UI, which allows me to see the results that I created here, and also with some unique identifier. I can look at this and, for example, look at performance metrics. I know it's a little bit small, I think. I'll just zoom in a little bit. And then you can see here, for example, the F1 score, the precision and the recall. It's not, don't mind that this is not a particularly strong model. It's just for illustrative purposes. But you can see then here how this, these results are generated, and look at all these metrics that are configured in this workflow. And this is basically, what I wanted to show you as a live demonstration of what we have implemented already in the towards this the idea of this Parma platform that allows make steps in the direction of automated AI assessments. And with this, I would also I'm at the end of my presentation, and just to sum it up. We think that basically for efficient risk and quality management, which is very, very important now and will be even more in the future, it's very crucial to have a high degree of automation. And we developed a platform that takes this need for automation, but also other aspects into account, and show that this kind of the basic function of this platform would be to manage or to integrate all these tools that we need, or the components that we need, but also manage the test workflows in a way that allows for auditable, automatable, and reproducible assessments or test workflows. And as a proof of concept, we showed you that this kind of architecture, the steps that we have taken to implement it on real life hardware on a public instance of the Deploy AI platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I put one question in the chat because I cannot speak.
Okay, let's see if I can look at the questions. Wait a second.
And please raise your hand if you want to ask questions.
Let's see. Now I see this the Teams window again. Let's see. Okay. So what is the first question? I think. Yeah, I mean, will the platform scale up to welcome large language models? This is one question I see here, but I mean, I looked at the chat now, but okay, that's just. I think that's basically. Yeah, the platform as I said, basically the platform as an architecture is ready for large language models because it doesn't really distinguish these things. The question, of course, now is, do we have the computational resources? What that on an individual platform instance that is enough to accommodate large language models? And there we think that, of course, we have of course this upload functionality. If you really want to upload it, of course you have to make sure yourself that you have enough computational resources for that. But technically, there's nothing preventing you from doing this. But as I said, we also have this. We thought about this. Thought that this option of just registering a model and providing a model endpoint is also possible. And then, of course, it should be. I mean, it's just be this. If it's deployable, it is also integrable in the platform. That's basically the idea. And so then I would just.
Yes, and then Brian.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Michel Barreto.
Well, thanks for the talk. I had a quick question, like to kind of know about how would you compare your platform with existing platform like Kubeflow, MLflow, weight and biases, LangTrace. Well, how's it different, and why do we need like all these platform? Are they not good? Like, do we have to kind of integrate, have one platform that kind of some of them missing some of the components that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think I mean, some of these components that we were missing when we were looking at these things, for example, is this kind of federated setting that I think that you can, of course. I mean, the thing is basically, I would say, the examples that you mentioned are very good examples of things that you could build the platform with. Basically, there are these technology components that you use to realize these functionalities. So you could, of course, use MLflow as a component in building these things that we think are the abstract components of the platform. But we didn't find any one of those frameworks or platform solutions that had that fulfilled all these requirements. And I want to really stress that the fact that we just chose now to test these things was with Graphene and Kubernetes does not mean that we think that this is the implementation. Ideally, we would even have something like someone builds the platform with MLflow and whatnot, and some other guy uses Graphene, and then they connect them either way with each other. That would be our vision, actually.
Thank you.
Michel.
Yes, thanks, Daniel. Do you think that your platform could integrate guidance provided by vertical standards, for instance, just to say at this step I have to test that point rather than doing things by hand from step to steps?
Yeah, sure. That's of course the vision that we have. I think it goes more in the direction of what I showed here. I'm not sure if you can see this because it's still very small. So we think that basically it is a kind of backend, and it is a backend that should have some kind of UI in order to make it easy for people who are new to the platform to acquaint themselves with it. But it should not. In the end, it should not be used in the way that you really actually by hand upload these things. That should be something that should be easily automatable, and hopefully then that there should be some, as I said, some kind of application layer on top of this platform that actually provides some. There will be, depending on the use case that you have, and I mentioned a few, for example, AI testing in development will be different from model benchmarking. So the platform architecture, the base layer, this pharma layer should be compatible with all of them, but will not provide for each individual use case and others that you can think of, all the functionality that you need. So there will be probably some layer on top of this, but this should all in the end then be, you know, automatable, and then you will have some way of just calling the API of the platform to upload your models, to build your workflows using basically JSON files to configure them, and then the platform should take this file and version it and register it on the platform, that you can really see, okay, at some point I used an API call to generate this particular workflow using this particular artifacts that could be identified exactly by this and this UUID, and of course this, and then the application front end that you have in several of these use cases then should talk to this platform API and do these things automatically. If this was the question and I understood it correctly.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel.
Any other question to Daniel? No. If not, we will conclude the seminar now. Thank you very much. I put a pre-announcement of the next one in the chat. And I wish you a good end of day to all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And yeah, get well, Bertrand.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Bertrand.
Bye.